Welcome to the Video Jungle Podcast. I am Artie Gold. This is virtually connected to me, Justin Andrews.
Virtually, but I'm still real. I still exist, just in case you don't believe it.
Well, I'm getting to that point where I don't know anymore, Justin. Like, I haven't talked to or actually seen many people outside my family for a long time. So you could be a virtual reality holograph right now for all I know.
The world has gone backwards in a lot of ways, and it's kind of fun. Heather and I, we normally go to bed at around 9:30, and we stayed up until 11:30 last night playing Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh God, I was addicted to that.
Yeah, good times. I probably got a bunch of viruses on my laptop here, so hopefully this doesn't crash.
I was when I first started my first company, I was addicted to Zoo Tycoon, which is making a zoo. So I can tell you that I'm not allowed to play those games anymore per my wife, just because of how much time it takes. But I digress.
Speaking of fake zoos.
Our guest that we have on this week is a person that we met through a podcast, and he's been very inspirational to me personally. I know you have been on his podcast, Jordan Brady from Respect the Process. He started as a comedian, was an actor, moved into directing, and pretty much specializes in like commercial work and trying to make that funny. And we take this kind of deep dive into like what the commercial world is. How do you build a set? Who's on the set? How do you deal with clients? I found that to be very intriguing.
And what I really like about Jordan isn't just like his experience in the industry, but for many years now, he's been about connecting people. So his podcast, Respect the Process, brings people from all different aspects of this industry together. And he has a sort of narrow lens as a commercial director and what that role looks like. And it's very different than the work that we sometimes do. So you get a good glimpse of what that looks like. And he actually has a commercial director boot camp that he normally flies people out to LA to participate in. And he's put that online. And what I love is after we get off the phone with him, I looked on LinkedIn, he made that available for free to anyone who is an educator in the space of video production. So he's a good guy. And more importantly, I think he makes understanding the role of a commercial director very simple to understand, no frills, easy to get, but it's a lot of the non-technical stuff, the relationship, the soft side of it that you really pick up from watching Jordan in action in that boot camp, a digital boot camp that we get to see.
And he also has what I find the three prerequisites of a director, a good director. One is full-fledged beard, only black t-shirts, and shorts every single time. That seems to be the go-to director thing that you need to have.
Yeah, he's going to start selling that outfit online as just part of
the number one Halloween outfit. Yes.
It's the Video Jungle Podcast. Find your fascinating.
I believe in magic. If there is a fun spirit on set, that some of that feeling, some of that mojo will leak into the spot. So I believe that if I can create and set the tone for the set and create a vibe that fosters creativity and everybody's having a good time, that 8% that the guy sitting on the cooler brings when he just rolls his eyes is going to make the spot that much better.
Today, we're welcoming director, podcaster, and hot sauce enthusiast Jordan Brady. Jordan's work is revered in the filmmaking community, having directed 4 features, the definitive documentary trilogy on stand-up comedy, and over 800 commercials for a list of global brands too long to mention. But Jordan's greatest gift has been the willingness to share his knowledge of the entertainment business through his podcast, Respect the Process, and his latest online masterclass on commercial directing. Mr. Jordan Brady, welcome to the Video Jungle Podcast. I think I started following you a long time ago, and just you've always been kind of like a viral virtual mentor for me. So when you replied to I think I linked in message you, when you replied, I was like just so happy. I just wanted to let you know that personally. And then Jordan,
thank you.
I know Justin.
If we could hug, I would right now, but it's and I know socially Justin, inappropriate now.
Yeah, we can't do that. We have to do it like a virtual hug.
I didn't expect that. You got me a little verklempt there, Mr.
We'll
Gold.
do it the whole episode. Let's actually just make this episode complimenting Jordan Brady. I think that will make for some pretty good material. So no, but in all seriousness, Jordan's podcast, Respect the Process, is one that if you're in production, you should listen to it. If you're in marketing, you should listen to it to understand what goes into production and what goes into doing it the right way, because there's many right ways, And I love that you have that striation of guests that, have done it the old school Hollywood way. And then you have some younger folks that they grab a camera, they go shoot a music video, and you're thinking, how the heck did they do this?
I'll just say that rising tides lift all ships. So that's my dirty little secret. When I talk to you, when I interview you, Justin, I'm soaking this up. I'm learning. When I have a young filmmaker on and I hear how they're making a living and gathering a crew and still somewhat respecting the process, I put those arrows in my quiver.
As you see, Justin, he said somewhat respecting the process. So whatever you left him with was a little bit less than the process. But when did it become part of your mindset that you were going to teach people or want to share the information of respecting the process in our industry specifically? But why was that important to you?
Well, I remember in the mid 2000s doing a string of Eggo waffle commercials with Leo Burnett Chicago. And the process of, it was a guy in a waffle costume on a white cyc. And they were kind of subversive because a giant fork would chase him and he always ended up getting eaten by a child. or he would get hit by the fork or the plate, a giant plate would knock his feet out and he'd fall on the plate and syrup would dump on him. And they were like little puzzles. And I was like, this would be an interesting thing to follow the process from when the agency pitches these kind of sinister ideas about a breakfast food through the production and the post. And I just thought it would be, maybe I'm the only one that thought that was interesting. So that was the seeds of like a boot camp or a podcast, some way of teaching people what I was learning. And I had taken seminars on indie film producing. I took a Wes Craven class on horror. And it was just so valuable as opposed to film school. Not knocking film school, just now with YouTube, you can make your own university, right? So the very specific thing that happened is in 2010, amidst a recession, I lost a 6-day Kmart shoot to another director who I'd bid against on and off for years. And I won't curse on the show. We'll keep it professional. But I said, F that guy. I did a 27-page treatment. 6 days in the recession was going to change my life, right? And I remember this as clear as day. I took a breath and I went, no, not F that guy. Congratulations to that guy. Because he must have had a better idea. He must have had a better take. I bet he's going through some stuff. And that's when I said, I want to start talking to my peers as opposed to existing in a vacuum and competing against other directors for projects, compete against myself to make the best idea. Because that's the woman or man who comes up with the best idea should win. And then it took about 3 years to ask that same guy to be on the podcast.
But I think that's going back probably 3 years ago when I was on your podcast, that was the same time that we were really starting to look at it that same way. And that's why I respect the process. That phrasing really stuck out to us. And at the same time, we were starting to look at the world differently and saying, we started with DSLR cameras and totally not respecting the process to some extent. And now we're every step of the way, it is that same mindset of, okay, to get to the next level, to produce the type of content that we want to produce, we have to actually look and study and see what other people are doing.
But one of the things, Jordan, and not to date myself, but there's a age gap between me and Justin, and I'm assuming me and you are closer to that. I don't think that the
my hair is more your hair color.
Yeah. But what I don't think the younger generation understands that, and maybe you can kind of fill this in as well, because you told that story. But back in the day, the 80s, potentially, there wasn't this love fest of collaboration, right? It was more like dog-eat-dog world, one team against the other. You didn't share ideas. You didn't even hire the same staff. And if you even looked at somebody else's DP, they gave you a curse phone call. There's a new age of collaboration that's kind of developed, and that's refreshing. But if you can talk a little bit, that had to have some sort of mindset for what you were thinking about. Like, this guy won that project. This guy has won this bid. It's not the same animosity anymore. Do you feel that as well?
I started directing commercials in the late 90s. mid to late 90s, promos and then commercials. But as an actor, I was on set in the 80s doing commercials for Kit Kat candy bars, paid hundreds of thousands, not hundreds, but tens of thousands of dollars to eat a Kit Kat. And I worked
good at it.
Oh, I was good. It was like that Ferris Bueller chicka bow soundtrack. And so when I started, I was with a company who they said, use this DP. He shoots for so-and-so. And in hindsight, I was like, wow, maybe that guy, maybe he threw a curveball at me so that my work wouldn't be as good as his regular directors. Like that sounds paranoid now, but another director pointed it out to me. Like, oh, why would he make your stuff look as good as the guy that, basically paid him to buy a house? But the directors back in the day, like you hear the Joe Pytka stories of locking the creative director in the porta potty or kicking a guy off set or throwing a football at an actor. I mean, those days are long gone. And the enigma of the director as this bully, and it was a rite of passage to survive that experience. I can't imagine any young agency creative. Can you imagine just a young art director going, wait a minute, what? I think the respect is now we see that the agencies create the script and sell that to a client. So we're helping that cause as opposed to you're being handed a script and you go away and come back and turn in a project. I mean, those exist, but it's still a collaborative form.
The script writing process is interesting to me because we actually, as a young video, creative service, we develop a lot of scripts too. And we find ourselves, sometimes we work with agencies, they have their script, we have our script. It's a little bit more of a collaboration of scripts now. According to your process, and then maybe even the masterclass, we can get into that as well. You only take agency scripts. You don't write your own scripts, correct? Or do you write as well? And how does that process work for you?
I would say 80% of my gigs, I'm hired to do a script that's already been sold and vetted. There's 20% where I am onboarded with the agency to write ideas. And I'm not shy about saying, hey, rewriting is just part of the collaborative process. Taking something from the page to the stage sometimes requires a little finesse. And how often have we gotten a script that is physically impossible to do? I remember a Hot Pockets commercial where two millennials were walking down the grocery store aisle, and in the animatic that the agency had done and the client loved, they're walking side by side in a grocery aisle, and like, well, why can't you do that profile shot? And I said, well, because people don't walk side by side, sideways, turning towards the camera like the cartoon that you've sold off on. It's physically impossible to walk like that. So you have to come up with coverage. But I digress. I don't write and then pitch clients. I wish I was in your space to have like that kind of thing. I have a car dealership in Denver. I write with another guy, a creative director, and we pitch, or he pitches, and we write together for weeks. I mean, there are a few where I see the script. This is like golden. I see the script before they pitch with repeat clients, and they'll say, is this possible? Like, we want to do 3 of these. And, I said, well, maybe we don't use the camel. Like the camel's going to take up a disproportionate amount of resources. And then they go pitch so that they don't pitch and everybody falls in love with the camel. And then I go, well, that's the only thing we can do that day.
You come in from behind and go, what about a camel? And they go, that's a great idea, Jordan.
Yeah. So you have commercial directing boot camp, which is something that for those people that don't remember, when you can actually go somewhere and be with people and learn that way. And you kind of brought that to the small screen in a nice little module course that if you watch it at 1.5 times speed, which is what I did, took me something like an hour to get through it all. And, it's the type of thing that some people that watch it, they're going to get a ton of information because they're just not sure of certain things. Other people will just get a couple little pieces. And one thing that stuck out for me, just a simple thing, is at the end of the shoot, the way that you thanked everyone on the crew and the client. That's something that I took away and said, of everything, it's always how you make people feel at the end of the day, that they're going to remember above and beyond anything almost. So if you have an hour, it's worth taking a look at your masterclass. Why did you end up creating that? And what was sort of your goal for people to take away from that?
Well, I started the boot camp in 2015, and I do it quarterly. And I would say it's a hobby, right? Because it's 20 filmmakers. Actually, in June 27th in LA, it's only 15 filmmakers that we're taking because social distancing. You know, I want it's in a 50 seat theater that I want people to be able to spread out and have a couple of seats between each other, because who knows, right? So I've had people say, I wish this was online. Hey, I can't make it to LA. By the time I fly to LA, or I've done it in New York and Chicago and Dallas, still people go, I have to travel, I have to get a hotel. And I was like, I don't really want to put some of the things I say in that room online. I mean, you were there. There's some dirt. You know, there's some Jedi mind tricks that I don't want some people to know and go, oh, I know what you're saying to me now. Like, I don't want the agency that I'm working with. Although, I mean, I'm a pretty much a straight shooter, but you know, I have this little handbook, the commercial directing voodoo book, and the creatives that bought the book are like, oh, you don't want to start with a wide shot. Oh, you're telling us it won't fit in the spot because we read that on page 60. Like, my own teachings bit me in the ass. So here we are on lockdown. 2 jobs I had for April went away, and I have to shoot something. And my son is a DP on the rise and a young director and doing music videos and such. He has a red epic. And I go, well, I'm finally going to do the masterclass. I've been thinking about it for about the last 2 years to make some of the philosophies accessible to people that either can't afford the boot camp, or as a primer to the boot camp, or you're just far away.
Was there anything that you left out that you wish you put in? Or was it all scripted the way you needed it to be?
I wish I had behind the scenes of a tech scout. So God willing, we're on set and we're tech scouting soon. I will just add that module and email everybody that's taken the class, because the tech scout, where you meet with the gaffer and the DP and the production designer and the gang boss, where they're going to park the trucks. I don't tell them where to park the trucks, but I do tell them the story and the shots I want to get. So they'll say, so we're never going to look down the street. I go, you can park it all right there. I'm never going to turn around and look at the neighbor's house. I do not talk about spec spots. And I wanted to put in a couple recordings of conference calls that I play at boot camp. And that I bleep out people's names, and some people I have permission to use the calls. And I thought, I'm not going to put the conference calls in the masterclass, because I'm saving that that's for the boot camp. And I hate to sound like a salesman here, but you do get $100 off the boot camp by taking the masterclass. Like, that's essentially makes it half price. So I thought that was a pretty good deal.
Which is the price of the flight now. If you look at the flights, it's pretty good.
And now's the time.
You're right.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
Question. Can anybody find their fascinating?
100% of people can find their fascinating. Yes.
Is that a scientific fact?
The studies are in. We conducted a lot of research, spent way too much money determining that find your fascinating is a thing that humans can do.
And how many dentists approve of our find your fascinating?
4 out of 6.
4. And what are the other 2 doing right now?
They're
basically not dentists anymore, Justin.
Right.
So they don't count.
Know.
So
I didn't
really
know what
4 out
happened
of
to
4
them.
dentists, because they didn't understand the process, so they just didn't make it in this world. So if you want to make it in this world of creativity and finding your creative courage, you should go to findyourfascinating.com right now. We'll send Justin right into your office. We'll send our team into your office, and we will find your fascinating.
But not if you're a dentist.
But not if you're one of those other 2 dentists. They lost their chance.
No, but I think the idea is, like, the podcast is free. It's something that people can listen to. They can take things away from every episode. The masterclass is just uncovering, really seeing what you do, some simple tips and tricks, easy to watch, not like a big endeavor to take it on. so people can accomplish it and get it done. And I think the thing that we want to really dive into a little bit more is this Valley Toyota series that you've been able to bring to life, something that feels like it's a national spot. It's all based on a character, Pat, the Toyota loving and Toyota enthusiast, Toyota intern. So talk to us a little bit about that idea in the Respect the Process format, going back to agency, the day you heard about it as the director, and what you originally thought when you heard the concept.
Okay, so for the listener, a little context. A tier 1 ad campaign for a car dealer is a Toyota spot there's no price, there's no lease information, there's no deal. Tier 2 is sort of your regional. They take some of that same footage or running footage of the car, or maybe a spokesperson, and they put a lease right now for 0% down and 0% financing. And then tier 3 is your local dealer that's like, hey, we got a lot of Toyotas, come on down right now. This one right here. And they're pointing at a car with a big sticker on it. So Valley Toyota is a group of dealers in Phoenix, Arizona that have pooled their money to make essentially tier 3 spots. But since they realize economies of scale, and we do like a 4 or 5 day shoot every year, we get 8 to 12 spots sometimes, and they look like national spots. And so they came to directors in Los Angeles, or the production companies, were in LA, and we bid the triple bid, thing. So that was 2005, and the scripts were really funny, and it was a guy that just loved Toyotas so much. And it doesn't matter. It's almost like a cartoon that he has every model of Toyota from spot to spot. Like if we do one about a Tacoma, Dad, can I drive the Tacoma? And another one, he's like, oh, my Prius? There's no continuity of his family or car. It's just whatever's funny. So I bid on the project, and the agency had reached out to a celebrity casting agency in LA. And at one point, I think it was going to be George Lopez as the guy. And he had some HBO specials around the 2004, 2005 era. And I guess he was very popular in the Phoenix area. But he I think he had a kidney transplant or something, and he couldn't do it. And then Pat Finn came up, and he had been on Seinfeld and a bunch of other shows. And there were meetings. There was not really an audition. It was just more of a negotiation. And I'm watching, not an audition tape, but footage of him from Seinfeld. Joe Mayo was his character, if anybody wants to Google. And that campaign has lasted since 2005, and we just shot last November.
My takeaway in this case study of Valley Toyota was how much of your clients show up to the video village. And my question is that how many clients always show up to that spot? Or is it because they have a good time on set because you're giving them kind of a good show, and it kind of grew over time of shooting these spots? What has been your experience with the client relationship on set like that, specifically the video village?
If I didn't have a relationship with the agency and those clients, I don't think they would allow a camera to be roaming around. These days we do see Instagram posts all the time, which is a little bit disrespecting the process, but everybody's doing it. So I had my son a couple years ago, the young Ben Brady, with his camera just follow me around and get shots. And he interviewed some of the crew and had little snippets, but that didn't make it in. It was really about showing my, hopefully, fingers crossed, Zen approach to leading the team, to setting a fun mood on set. So most of the people you see in the behind the scenes are agency people, because that year we did 8 scripts in 3 days, and different teams wrote different scripts. So they all get to come to the set. And I think because it is so fun, and Pat, the actor, is so funny, he's like a Second City guy. He and Chris Farley were roommates in college.
Ooh, tidbit.
As a side trivia. That I think it's a reward for the agency to come to the set when their script is produced. Like their script won, they're going to now come out and shoot it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. because I know you talk a little bit about improv versus staying with the script, and I know it's kind of that's the one part that's always, for me, is as a director or a producer, like, how far do you go from the script? I always say trust the script. That's at the end of the day, trust the script, because so many ideas start flowing when you have somebody like Pat that's doing his thing. Do you worry about staying to the script because he's just giving you so much good stuff? And like, as a director, what would you give for advice to stay on that script?
I'm with you. I think if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. I say it in the masterclass, improv is overrated. And then my wife, who kind of spell checked the masterclass, if you will, she goes, in one part you say improv is overrated.
Yeah.
And then with Pat Finn and Catherine Hahn, you're encouraging them to ad lib. When you have someone, young directors or new directors, you let that actor go. And you may want to give them the take so that they can loosen up, so that when they do the actual scripted word for word, it's more in their voice. They're more comfortable with it. The thing that I do with Pat is I remind him, hey, you can't do a 15-second riff at the end of the commercial because the whole spot is 22 seconds with a 8-second lease offer. So you have to say your line and give a look or truncate the riff into one word. And he trusts me with that. And he'll go, that was too long. I'll go, yep. And we'll do it again and just hone it. And the copywriters and art directors on set will be like, hey, can we try? That was a good one he came up with. Can we try that again, but shorter? Right. So I think it's a gray area, but when you have someone that's classically trained in improv at Second City, or if you've seen Catherine Hahn in Step Brothers and We're the Millers.
I actually think Catherine Hahn is like so underrated right now.
Yes.
I mean, she's like so underrated as an actress and a performer. Like everything she's in, I just love. And when I saw her in the last commercial, did you do those commercials?
It depends on which ones.
She's the one where she's dressed like a mom in sweatpants.
No, yeah. That's a sore subject with me.
Okay, then we won't talk about it right now.
No, we should talk about it. It's
okay,
very
let's
useful
talk about
information.
It. She's great performance in that too. I think she's just so underrated right now in America. But why is that a sore subject for you, Jordan?
So I did these Chrysler commercials for the last few years with Catherine Hahn, and it was out of the Donor Agency in Detroit. Wonderful people, great, concepts, and I was so. Literally, it was a joy to work with Catherine Hahn because I'd seen her in all the comedies. And then when the agency, I guess they lost that account and now it's a publicist account. Well, I mean, the director gets thrown out with the bathwater. If you're an ad agency, do you want to take the guy that did the last agency's work for a couple of years, or do you go, hey, we're going to improve this? And the reason it's a sore subject is because it's sour grapes and I like working with her. But really, it's because I was the one telling the agency and the clients in Video Village, we're not using her to her full potential. She does characters. If you watch Bad Moms and Bad Mom Christmas, and if you watch Step Brothers, she does characters. And we're having her be this mom, which is funny, and she's funny, but she's playing herself. We should have her do like sketches. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm the only one that saw that potential, but who knows? So am I bitter? No.
Yeah. But I think the thing that the improv conversation leads us down, and even this conversation with Catherine Hahn, is your goal as the director is really rooted fully in figuring it all out in advance, but then the day of, it's very much just relationships, and it's two relationships. It's the relationship with the client, and all you're doing is protecting the creative at that point. You are making them feel comfortable and confident that the crew's got it, and your demeanor, your temperament, the Zen conversation is what informs to them it's good. The moment that you start putting out a fire or adjust a plan here or adjust a plan there, it becomes clear to them that something could be wrong. And then they don't trust the creative, and it creates a domino effect.
A client once said on a Kia commercial, "Are you happy?" And I was young, and I said, "Yeah, are you happy?" And he goes, no, I'm not the director. It doesn't matter if I'm happy. I don't know. I know how to sell cars. I know how to market cars, but we hired you for your point of view. So if you're happy, I'm happy. And I realized by having a too passive of an answer and wanting to please that guy, as opposed to saying, I'm really happy. Now go sit in the corner. That would have been the way to go, was not to tell him sit in the corner, but just be confident in what's going on. I remember one time the client, the agency, were getting a little worried that a shot was taking too much time to set up. It was a weird forced perspective of like a 3-foot lighthouse that we wanted to look like it was on the cliff far, far away. And they said, why is this taking so long? Like everything else has been pretty much on point. And I just looked at him and I said, it's taking too long because I didn't plan it properly. And they went, well, that's very honest. And I said, yeah, I'll go fix that. And I went to the crew and I go, guys, we've taken too long. We're either going to broom the shot, meaning we're not going to do it, or we got to figure it out right this minute. And I stood there on set and we figured it out and we shot. So I was letting the crew try to figure it out when really on the Tech Scout, I should have had measurements, because it's mathematical, right? A 3-foot lighthouse with a cliff 1.5 miles away. And I didn't do the homework. And I trusted the DP, and he didn't do the homework.
Failed math class.
Failed
Class as a youngster. But no, I think, and you see it very clearly in this master class, how you manage the client, where you step away. And what you said is, I'm stepping away to be with the client right now. Kind of just chit chat to some degree, give them confidence, because you don't need to be involved in the lighting setup. If you've hired a gaffer that can do it, if you've hired a DP that can do it right, you don't need to do that. The creative director, the art director, that whole team has it. Now, if you're in a situation where you have a much smaller crew, the director might need to be a bit more hands-on and kind of seeing more of what's going on. But at the end of the day, best scenario, director is responsible for hiring the great crew, trusting them, and managing that relationship. And I think you see that in the case study that you presented.
Oh, good. For Valley Toyota, we scout the car dealership. We've done a light study where we just had a PA take pictures all day so we know where the sun's going to go. And we strategically plot the day so that we know that the sun's going to come in through these windows. Maybe we go outside at the end of the day and get a sunset shot. I also will tell the agency, this spot has to be at night. Just in November with Valley Toyota, we did a spot where the guy was in a parking lot and Pat was admiring this new RAV4. And I said, it has to be at night because we're into daylight savings or whatever, whenever we lose an hour or whatever that's called. And the agency goes, oh, I never thought of it like that. And I said, well, the ramifications are we'll need more lights, but we won't run out of time. If we try to do it in the day and the sun drops, now we have this half-assed looking weird spot that's, partly in the day and partly at dusk, won't edit together. So I love what you said, Justin, about you're protecting the creative. All the homework goes in before the shoot day, and then you can protect the creative to the point where you're being honest with them and yourself about the best idea for the spot. I mean, I've had ideas that I have pitched and successfully got everybody on board with during the prep and at the pre-pro. And then on set, been like, you know what? I think that's a better idea. Or one of the creatives will go, can we try this? And you got to be open to that being the best for the spot. The worst way you can disrespect the process is to let your ego get in the way and be like, no, I planned it to be like this for 3 weeks. Well, we get here and this is what it is, and it's better.
How important is it to work with the talent, give them an understanding of the shot, and what type of information do you like to give to the talent to get them to perform the way you're looking for?
Wow, that's a great question. With physical comedy, I want the actor to know, and this is demonstrated in that behind the scenes, I'm telling Pat, the actor, like, hey, you see where the camera is? Why don't you open up your body a little bit towards the lens so we can see, because he's wearing a funny fisherman's waders and a fishing vest with his necktie. And then when you're running the car, kind of stick your butt out and jump in the back of the car. So I like the actors to know the blocking of the camera, but I don't tell them too much about the schedule. With a celebrity, I have said, hey, I have a plan for the day. Do you want me to tell it to you out of respect, or you want to trust me? And they 9 times out of 9 say, just tell me what to do.
So talk through a little bit more detail of how the director, or really how anyone on set, how they can help contribute to the magic on set. And your background in comedy, probably some improv in there, understanding what does fun look like? What does it look like to add to a set, as opposed to be the person that's like, well, time out. What if we did that? Like, there are rules that kill and crush magic. How do you, as a director, keep that magic and that momentum building?
Yeah, let's add to the relationships that you're talking about. There's the client agency Video Village, which they're out in front of the theater watching the show. They should never know that anything's behind or stressful, or a light broke, or the grip broke his leg, or the sound woman is actually deaf. They shouldn't know any of that. Then lumped in with your actor side, I'm going to put the crew, because you're casting the crew just like you're casting the actors. There's a wonderful DP who shoots gorgeous film, but he's kind of a buzzkill. So I can't bring him on certain shoots because I've said to my wife, like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring so-and-so. And she'll be like, remember last time? Like, he pisses off everybody. And there's no time for that.
Unless you are looking to make a shoot where the magic is in having everyone furious on set.
That may be the case.
We've done stuff where audio people are like, why would we want to work with that person again? Whereas there's someone that we've worked with who doesn't always get the best audio, but he's great to have on set. He contributes to the magic. So it's sort of like not the perfect answer, but yeah, you need to have the soft skills and the technical skills. You need to be part of the team.
Amen. So what I like to do is start off the day executing the schedule and telling everybody that, we're in collaboration mode. And this is something I cover in the masterclasses. I'm in collaboration mode. If somebody has a good idea, channel it to me, get it to me. Let's see if we can make it work. But because of the tech scout and the prep, we start the day trying to execute a plan. And usually, let's say you start at 7 or 8, usually around 10:30, 11, someone will say, like the DP and the AD will go, well, we're right here. Why don't we just swing the camera to the left and we'll get that shot that we were going to do in the afternoon? And it is my job then to say, guys, and by guys, I mean men and women, right? Let's not call the audible. Let's stick to the plan and methodically go through this. Conversely, if it totally makes sense, I'll say, well, is the wardrobe department ready to do this scene you're talking about? Doesn't makeup need 20 minutes? I mean, it's not really just swinging the camera. It may be for your department, but there's a bunch of other people that have to do things to get ready. So I think you have to have that macro look. Is that the right term? Like the 20,000 foot view of
bird's
the set,
eye view,
right?
Yeah.
Bird's eye view to go, I know it's easier for you, but every other department has to work. And then at a certain point, if you allow a film crew to have all day, they'll take all day. The work expands to fill the time allotted to do it. And it's all out of the goodness. Like, I never understand why directors get pissed. Like, you guys are taking too long. Usually it's because they care. They want to tweak the lighting. The electricians want to get that one light in the corner that the gaffers asked for because the DP's trying to shape a certain mood. Like, their heart is in the right place. And it ties in, Justin, to the actors, because you don't want the actors doing a great performance and they lock it in. And you're like, that's it. And now it's going to take 90 minutes to get the next shot. And they kind of forgot what they did. So you're the captain of the ship. And I will say to the crew, guys, stop the ideas. I am taking off my collaboration hat. I am putting on my benevolent dictator hat. And this is what we're doing. And it's not being a jerk. That's sometimes the job. I'll even tell an agency and client at a pre-pro, I'm professionally funny. I've been professionally funny for a long time. Tomorrow on shoot day, I may not be as funny because I'm a taskmaster. I have to guide the ship, and sometimes that's not fun. So you don't have to be a comedian or even make everybody happy. I think it creates the vibe. But if you say to the crew, I am taking off my collaboration hat and I'm going to tell you exactly what I want, you're not spoiling the magic. Just you're aligning everybody to, oh, wow, he's right. We're an hour behind.
Plug yourself. Tell people where they can find this, whatever discount / masterclass Jordan Brady coupon code you got in your back pocket.
Okay, so I do implore everyone listening to, whether it's now or, and this circles back to the very first question, when did I want to start giving back? Don't hoard the knowledge. It's not going to help you in the long run. It's going to help you to share. So if you find things in the masterclass or things we've said on this podcast, young people, that you don't agree with, email me, Jordan@commercialdirectingbootcamp.com. I'm accessible. My phone number's on the web somewhere. You can message me on Twitter. So across all the socials, I'm at that Jordan Brady. Not this one. That Jordan Brady. Commercial Directing Masterclass is commercialdirectingmasterclass.com. And here's my offer for the Video Jungle podcast listeners. When you complete the course, you email me, and you can email me through the masterclass or find me or Jordan at commercialdirectingbootcamp.com, and you will get a free 20-minute consultation on your career. We'll talk about your reel. We'll talk about, should you sign with a production company? Do you need to make more spots? What are you doing wrong? And I've been doing this now for the first few people that have signed up. 20 minutes is like a 45-minute call because, I can talk and
right.
I can listen. And that's what I'm saying. And you get $100 off the boot camp if you come out to LA and take it. So I think it's a lot of value. And if you hate it, let me know. And if you like it, tell your friends.
Well, we really appreciate you being on the Video Jungle podcast. Like I said at the beginning, we appreciate you not hoarding your information, and you can't see it from where you are sitting, but you did have a lot of influence on specifically me and Justin as we helped build Animus Studios, which powers the Video Jungle podcast. And while we may not ever profess to go into the kind of commercial work you're going, I will tell you that Respect the Process has generated through our culture as a company. So hopefully someday you get to the East Coast and we can show you around our little state.
I would love pizza and a beer with you guys.
Oh,
and
geez,
you know what?
yeah.
You guys are making stuff for fun. You go out and make things just because you want to make things. That's the big secret.
Yeah. That one half of our company is fun. The other half is like what I like to say, paying the bills.
If there are two things to really take away from this episode, to me, it's this idea of relationships. And in my head, it was two relationships that the director is really responsible for that you see in his work. The relationship with the client and building trust with them and protecting the crew from them so that the crew can focus on the creative. And then the relationship between the director and the actors, making sure that they understand how to act. He brought up the third relationship that obviously we do all the time, but wasn't one that I just immediately put in here, which is the relationship with the crew and making sure that as the director, you're guiding the ship and creating the culture that you want on set. So it's a great episode that really taps into those three relationships at kind of a nuanced level, but one that whether you're in commercial production, producing films, or if you're a client that is on the receiving end of this type of stuff, there's a lot to pull from this episode.
Our kind of directing is really hands-on, doing a lot of stuff. Maybe that's the problem. We shouldn't be touching other stuff that we touch, Justin.
We're really screwing it all up.
But I found it very educational to kind of go through that process. And it's a really good interview. I think the 2 points you brought up are absolutely correct. I think there's a lot of just relationships and how you treat people and how you want to be treated. And yes, I think he gives us a lot of good secret tidbits about how you can act on and how you can actually get better projects.
Yeah.
The funny part about what Jordan does for a living is I kind of started with 30-second commercials doing local spots and stuff, but I find 30-second scripts to be really hard to write. I was surprised that Jordan actually, like the directing that he does, what do you say, like 80% of the time he doesn't write the script, which is
that's not his role, right? There are lots of ways you can get involved in video production, commercials, etc. But Jordan's role in the process isn't to come up with the ideas and execute them. He works with agencies, and the agencies have script writers that write scripts that come up with the concept, that bash those around. And his job is to take the concept and flush it out and say, what is actually achievable from a filming standpoint of this idea? What type of shots do we need to create? What's the lighting? What's the look? How do we nail the tone that they're trying to get out of this script and these boards? And then who's the crew that's actually going to pull this off? Who's the talent that's going to pull it off? And then day of, how do I execute it all? So our role is sort of more of a hybrid role where we work direct with clients a lot of times and think through, what is your bigger strategy and what is the video concept that's going to achieve that strategy, and then working on scripts.
That was probably my my biggest takeaway from the conversation we had for him was kind of the deep thought of this, was what you just said. Was I started to realize how different our world has been versus what his world is. And I probably gravitate more to people that are the hybrids and the do it kind of all jack of all trade type of people. We have run into agencies that do their own scripts and we execute them, but that's probably backwards from what Jordan does, which is like the 80-20 split. We're probably like 20-80, where a lot of the ideas come from ourselves. You probably write like 5 scripts a client after every meeting. So like,
it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to just contribute to taking the idea and adding a little bit of your factor to it versus being much more involved with it. So but I think like that is the message of Jordan's podcast, Respect the Process, is like, there are reasons that all these steps occur in the process. Like, imagine if someone tried, and it's very rarely done, where someone can write a movie, produce and direct a movie, and then also like edit the movie. Like, but that's beyond this podcast episode.
Yeah, this one's just sit back, enjoy the show, have a good listen, learn some stuff, and hopefully you enjoyed as much as we did.
This has been the Video Jungle Podcast. Find your fascinating, a product of Animus Studios.